We all know the feeling of a day where everything goes wrong. Every red light hits. Every conversation feels strained. We call it a bad day. But then there are the other moments, those rare windows where life seems to move in symphony with you. You think of someone and they call. You need a solution and it appears in a passing headline. It feels like luck. It feels like a coincidence. But have you ever noticed how these moments tend to happen when you feel a certain way inside? There is a persistent pattern beneath these experiences that most people overlook. It suggests that your life is not happening to you. It is responding to you. This is the first sign of a hidden mechanism that determines the very texture of your reality. We often treat these moments of flow as happy accidents. We assume they are gifts from a world outside of us. But consider the opposite experience. Think of those weeks where every door seems locked. You push harder, yet the resistance only grows. It is exhausting. You might have noticed that in those times, no matter how much logic you apply, the friction remains. Something unusual happens in moments like these. It is as if reality itself has become heavy and uncooperative. Most of us have overlooked the subtle connection between our internal state and these external blocks. We misinterpret the signal, thinking the world is against us, when in fact a deeper pattern is at work. Why does the flow vanish just as quickly as it arrives?
Why do some days feel like a constant uphill climb, while others move with effortless grace? Watch closely, because the mechanism behind this is far simpler than most people imagine. This is the strange consistency many people notice. You decide to follow a sudden small impulse, to take a different route or call an old friend. Suddenly, everything shifts. Doors that were stuck begin to swing open. Information you needed appears on a random screen. It feels as if the universe has suddenly become hyper-responsive to your presence. We usually dismiss this. We call it a lucky streak or a good day. But then, the pattern reverses. You ignore your intuition for the sake of logic. You push toward a goal that feels heavy and uninspiring. Suddenly, the synchronicities vanish. The bad luck returns. You find yourself fighting for every inch of progress. Have you ever noticed how quickly the flow can disappear when you shift your focus? This repetition suggests something deeper than mere chance. It is a recurring cycle that appears in different areas of life, years apart, yet with the same familiar rhythm. The pattern becomes difficult to ignore once you see it. It hides in plain sight, masquerading as coincidence, while quietly following a rule we have yet to name. Something is moving beneath the surface of these events. This is where the experience begins to make sense. We have been taught to view excitement as a mere emotional peak, a fleeting reaction to something good.
But in the context of alignment, excitement is something much more precise. It is a biological and energetic signal. It is the physical translation of your resonance with a specific path. When you feel that spark, you aren't just feeling happy. You are receiving a communication from a deeper part of yourself, indicating that this specific direction is the one of least resistance. This reveals something important about how reality works. The ease you feel isn't a reward for your effort. It is a confirmation of your frequency. Suddenly, the pattern becomes easier to understand when you realize that excitement is a compass, not just a feeling. It has always been present, operating quietly beneath the noise of your logic. We often overlook it because it feels too simple to be true. But this signal is the bridge between who you are and the reality you are currently observing. It is the language of your alignment. Think back to those moments when life suddenly felt like an uphill battle. This is the hidden rule behind the experience. You cannot experience what you are not a vibrational match to. This explains why the pattern behaves this way. To understand the mechanism, imagine a radio. If you want to hear a specific song, you must tune the dial to the exact frequency where that music lives. You don't create the song, you simply align with the station that is already broadcasting it. Reality operates through this same logic.
Your excitement is the indicator that you are tuning your dial to a specific channel of experience. When you follow that signal, you shift into a version of reality where the coincidences and solutions already exist. When you ignore it for the sake of logic or fear, you effectively change the channel to a frequency characterized by friction and effort. This mechanism has been operating in your life the entire time, quietly guiding every ordinary decision you've ever made. Suddenly, the shift begins to make sense. The ease you experience in alignment isn't luck. It is the natural result of being on the frequency where those events occur. You aren't making things happen. You are simply perceiving the reality that matches your current state of being. If the mechanism is so simple, why do we find it so difficult to follow? This is where many of us lose the signal. The moment the spark of excitement appears, a secondary system often kicks in. We call it logic. We call it responsibility. In reality, it is often just a sophisticated form of resistance. This is the moment the inner voice begins to argue, insisting that the path of excitement is too unpredictable or impractical. Most people mistake this internal obstacle for wisdom or maturity. They believe that by silencing the signal of excitement in favor of caution, they are being intelligent. But notice what happens next. The vibrant energy of the initial idea fades, replaced by a sense of heaviness.
How often do we talk ourselves out of something that felt right, only to find ourselves back in the same cycle of friction and effort? We prioritize the illusion of safety over the reality of alignment, not realizing that our fear is actually the static on the radio dial. Have you ever noticed yourself doing this? I'm curious if you've ever felt this signal and ignored it, only to realize later that your hesitation was the very thing creating the block. How different would a day feel if you followed the signal instead of the fear? To move back into alignment, you don't need a massive life overhaul. You simply need a navigation method. The formula begins by identifying the one option available to you right now that contains even a tiny bit more excitement than the others. It doesn't have to be a career change. It could be as simple as reading a specific book or taking a walk. Act on that excitement to the best of your ability, using whatever resources you have. This is how the signal becomes action. Follow that path as far as it naturally goes, until you can take it no further. This is where the navigation begins. The crucial step is to then release all attachment to what the outcome should look like. This allows the mechanism to work with the static of your expectations. This process works best when followed with curiosity rather than pressure. By treating each step as a light experiment, you allow reality to reorganize itself around your new frequency. If this perspective resonates with you, consider subscribing for more explorations like this. Each small decision made in alignment is where the shift in your experience truly starts. The change rarely starts with something dramatic. It usually begins in the quiet gaps of an ordinary afternoon. Imagine you are working on a routine task, and a sudden small curiosity about a topic you haven't thought of in years enters your mind. Instead of dismissing it as a distraction, you decide to spend 5 minutes exploring it. This is often how the shift begins. You find an article that leads to a name,
and that name reminds you of someone you once knew. On a whim, you send a short message. By the next morning, that person responds with an opportunity that perfectly solves a problem you've been struggling with for weeks. This isn't a miracle. It is the chain reaction of alignment. You followed the signal, and the signal adjusted your trajectory toward a frequency where that solution already existed. How many times has a small decision changed the direction of your day? You may have already experienced similar moments without realizing their significance, dismissing them as simple luck. But when you look closer, you see that the opportunity only appeared because you were willing to move when the spark arrived. The signal appears in ordinary situations, waiting for you to recognize that it is the doorway to a different version of your day.
This changes the way we understand the experience. When we look at the mechanism of alignment, we start to see that reality is not a single, solid path we must navigate. It is a vast landscape of simultaneous possibilities. This suggests something remarkable about the nature of reality. The version of your life that you desire, the one filled with flow, purpose, and ease, is not something you have to build from scratch. It is a reality that already exists as a potential frequency. Your excitement is simply the resonance that allows you to perceive it. Suddenly, the pattern reveals a deeper meaning. You are not a passive observer of a fixed world. You are a conscious tuner of your own experience. Every moment of alignment is a shift into a different version of yourself that was already there, waiting for you to match its rhythm. This suggests that the life you seek is not a distant destination, but a state of being you can access now. You may already be standing at the threshold of this realization in your own life, noticing that the signals of excitement are not just random sparks. They are invitations to explore versions of yourself you have not yet discovered. Reality is far more flexible than it appears, and you are the one holding the compass. Perhaps the signal has been there all along, waiting for the noise of the world to subside. Alignment is not a mountain you must climb, but a rhythm you choose to join.
In the days ahead, you may begin to notice something new in your life, a small coincidence that feels too precise to be luck, or a sudden impulse that carries a strange, vibrant weight. The pattern may already be unfolding around you, hidden within the ordinary choices of your day. Sometimes the shift begins simply by noticing these moments instead of dismissing them. How often have these signals appeared quietly in your life, only to be silenced by the logic of the mind? The next chapter of this journey explores what happens when you consistently follow this signal, revealing the even deeper mechanics of how your awareness shapes the world you see.